It was a cold, gloomy afternoon in the middle of November. The kind where the sky looks like it hasn't seen sunlight in days, and the wind cuts through your coat like it's looking for your soul. 11-year-old Ava sat on a splintered bench in front of the neighborhood bakery, the smell of fresh bread and cinnamon rolls swirling around her like a cruel tease. Her fingers were wrapped tightly around a napkin that held the last cookie she could afford. It was oatmeal raisin, her favorite. It wasn't just a cookie to her. It was a reward, a comfort, a rare treat in a world that often forgot to be kind. Ava's shoes were old, her jacket a size too small, and her heart much older than her years. Her mother worked double shifts at the hospital. Her dad had left when she was 6. Life was tough, but Ava was tougher, and yet, still so soft where it mattered. She looked down at the cookie again. The last bite of sweetness in her day. She smiled quietly and was just about to take a bite when she heard it, soft at first, almost mistaken for the wind. Then louder. A sob. A full, aching sob. She turned her head slowly and saw a man sitting on the curb, just a few feet away from her. He was hunched over, wearing a wrinkled coat that looked like it hadn't been washed in weeks. His hands were shaking, his face buried deep in them, shoulders heaving with every sob. People walked past him like he didn't exist, heads down, headphones in, too busy, too scared, too uninterested. Ava watched him for a moment, unsure of what to do. She wanted to ask if he was okay, but something told her he wasn't. Something deeper than her years told her that today might be one of the worst days of his life. Her eyes went back to the cookie in her hand, then back to the man, and without fully understanding why, she stood up, walked over to him, and gently tapped his shoulder. The man looked up, startled, tears streaking his face. His eyes were tired, red, and confused. He looked at Ava like she was a ghost. And then she did it. She held out her napkin-wrapped cookie and said with the sweetest, most innocent voice, "Mister, I don't know what happened, but this cookie makes me feel better when I'm sad. Maybe it can help you too." The man blinked, stunned. For a long moment, he didn't move. Then, slowly, he took the cookie, not out of hunger, but as if accepting something sacred. Something rare. Something pure. He looked at her with eyes that hadn't seen kindness in a long, long time. "Thank you," he whispered hoarsely. No one's ever done that for me." Ava smiled, shrugged her little shoulders, and said, "Sometimes, people just need someone to care." And then she turned around and walked away, not realizing she had just changed everything. What happened next? That cookie, that single, selfless cookie, started a chain of events that would ripple through the town like a shockwave. Because that man wasn't just any man. He was someone important, someone with a story of his own. And Ava, that little girl with nothing to give but her last cookie, was about to receive more. The man sat frozen on the cold concrete curb, the warmth of the cookie still lingering in his hand, its sweetness slowly dissolving on his tongue. But its meaning, oh, the meaning stayed with him much longer. That cookie wasn't just a treat, it was a message from a world that he had long given up on. And Ava, that little girl in the torn jacket with eyes far too wise for her age, had unknowingly saved him from stepping into a darkness he wasn't sure he could return from. Because that morning, he had left his apartment with no intention of ever coming back. The eviction notice on his door, the empty fridge, the medical bills stacked like tombstones on the table, they were just symptoms of a deeper pain. You see, his name was Marcus Whitmore. Just 5 years ago, he was a successful financial consultant, living in a high-rise with a corner office and a view of the city skyline. But a tragic accident had taken his wife and only daughter, and with them, his will to live. His fortune dwindled, his friends disappeared, and Marcus, once a name people respected, became another invisible soul drifting in the margins of society. That cookie, given to him by a child with nothing to spare, cracked something inside him. A dam. A weight, a silence, and for the first time in years, he felt seen. He sat there for a long time after Ava left, staring at the napkin she had wrapped the cookie in. It had little pink flowers on it and a child's doodle of a smiling sun. Written in shaky crayon handwriting were 5 simple words, "You are not alone today." And just like that, a spark lit inside Marcus, small, but real. He stood up, dusted himself off, and walked. Not away from life, but toward it. Toward something new. He didn't know where he was going yet, but he knew he had to start. Over the next few days, Marcus kept thinking about Ava. Who was she? Where did she come from? Why did she help him? He walked back to that same bakery every afternoon, sitting quietly on the same bench, hoping to see her again. And on the third day, he did. She was wearing the same too small coat, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, clutching a small plastic bag that held what looked like bread crusts and a single apple. Marcus stood up, approached gently, and smiled. "Hey," he said softly. Ava looked up, surprised. "Hi," she said, blinking. "Do you remember me?" he asked. Ava nodded. "You were sad. I gave you my cookie." Marcus chuckled, a warm, broken laugh that hadn't escaped his chest in years. "Yes. And you gave me more than that." She tilted her head. "I did. You gave me hope," he whispered. "You reminded me that people still care." Ava smiled, a bright, unguarded smile that shone like sunlight through storm clouds. She sat down beside him, and for the next hour, they talked. About cookies. About her school. About his dog from when he was a boy. She didn't ask about his sadness. She didn't pry. She just listened. And that, to Marcus, meant everything. A few days later, Marcus found a job sweeping floors at a local community center. It wasn't glamorous, and the pay was barely enough for dinner, but it was something. A step. And every evening, before he left, he made 2 peanut butter cookies by hand in the tiny staff kitchen, one for himself, and one he saved for Ava. Their friendship grew, quiet and powerful, like roots spreading under the surface of the earth. But one day, something happened that neither of them could have predicted. Ava didn't show up. Not for a day, or 2, or 3. Marcus worried. He asked around, even went door to door near the bakery, holding a blurry sketch of her face he had drawn from memory. And finally, someone pointed him to a small, rundown apartment building on the edge of town. He climbed the creaky stairs, heart pounding. When the door opened, a pale, tired woman stood in the doorway. She looked like life had wrestled every ounce of strength from her, but when Marcus said Ava's name, her eyes filled with tears. "You know my daughter," she whispered. "She talks about you, every day." It turned out Ava's mother, Clara, had fallen seriously ill. She had collapsed at work and was rushed to the hospital. Ava had been trying to take care of her alone, missing school, skipping meals, using the last of their money for medication. The little girl who had given her last cookie to a stranger had been silently struggling in ways no child should. Marcus felt his chest tighten. In that moment, he knew what he had to do. The next day, he went back to the community center and spoke with the director. He shared his story, all of it. His fall, Ava's kindness, Clara's illness. The director was moved to tears. They started a fundraiser, quietly at first. Then someone posted the story online. The post went viral. Girl gives cookie to homeless man, his identity shocks everyone. Donations flooded in. People wanted to help. People needed to help. Within 2 weeks, they raised enough money to cover Clara's hospital bills, pay 6 months of rent, and buy Ava new clothes and school supplies. But it didn't stop there. Marcus was offered a full-time position at the center as a counselor, helping others facing loss, addiction, and despair. His story inspired others to open up, to seek help, to believe again. Ava became something of a local hero. A news channel interviewed her, and when asked why she gave away her cookie, she simply said, "I just didn't want him to feel alone." That simple sentence touched millions. People started cookie days in schools, days where kids shared baked goods with someone who looked like they needed a friend. It became a movement, a ripple of kindness, all because one little girl gave away the only cookie she had. The story closed the circle in a way no one expected. Marcus, the broken man on the curb, was now a mentor, a giver, a man reborn, and Ava, the girl with the big heart, had unknowingly changed the world around her. But here's the thing. This story isn't just about Ava or Marcus. It's about you. It's about the small choices we make every day. You don't have to have money to make a difference. You don't need power or fame. Sometimes, all it takes is a cookie. Or a smile. Or a kind word. Because you never know who's fighting a battle. You never know how close someone is to giving up. And your smallest act of kindness might just be the very thing that pulls them back from the edge. So if this story touched you, if it made you feel something, hope, love, belief, then don't keep it to yourself. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe to our channel so you don't miss more stories like this, real, raw, and full of heart. Because here, we believe in kindness. We believe in second chances. And most of all, we believe in you. They thought the story had ended with Ava's kindness being returned 100-fold. They thought the fundraiser, the news story, and the outpouring of love would be the final chapter in a heartwarming tale. But as life often proves, sometimes the smallest spark ignites more than a fire, it starts a movement. What Ava didn't know when she gave her cookie to a crying man on that cold November day was that her act would not only change his life, but become a global symbol of silent courage, simple kindness, and the beauty of unseen hearts. It had been a few months since Clara recovered, thanks to the community's help. She found a part-time job at a local clinic, and Ava was now back in school, thriving. She had new shoes, a backpack filled with bright notebooks, and a lunchbox that never went empty. But even with these improvements, Ava didn't change. She still shared her lunch with the lonely kid in class. She still stopped to tie the shoelaces of the boy who couldn't bend down fast enough. And every Friday, without fail, she walked to that same bench outside the bakery with 2 cookies, one for her, and one for Marcus. They didn't need to say much anymore. Their silence was filled with gratitude. Their bond, forged in a moment of quiet kindness, was now something unbreakable. But as the world spun on, so did the consequences of that day. It started when a young teacher in Ohio read the viral story. She was so moved that she implemented a kindness cookie program in her school. Students were encouraged to bring a small treat to share with someone who seemed left out or upset. Within a week, bullying reports dropped by half. That teacher was invited to speak on national television. Then a businessman in Tokyo saw the interview and was reminded of his late daughter who used to hand out homemade cookies to hospital patients. Inspired, he funded the creation of a mobile app that connects people who want to offer help. Not with money, but with time, with conversation, with presence. The app. It was named Ava. Thousands downloaded it. Thousands more volunteered. People who had felt invisible their whole lives suddenly found themselves surrounded by warmth. But the real turning point came when Ava was invited to speak at a youth leadership conference in the capital. She was only 11, nervous, gripping a note card with her speech written in purple crayon. She stepped up to the podium, lights glaring, cameras flashing, but her voice never shook. "I didn't give the cookie because I wanted to be a hero," she said, eyes wide and honest. "I gave it because he looked like he needed someone. And I hoped, maybe he'd remember what kindness felt like." The room went silent, not out of boredom, but awe. That video clip alone was shared over 100 million times across platforms. Comments poured in. Teachers used her story in classrooms. Parents told it at bedtime. It wasn't a fable. It wasn't fiction. It was real. And in a world aching for something real, Ava became a symbol. But even symbols have moments of struggle. One evening, as Ava walked home from school, she saw a group of older boys mocking a homeless man near the subway. They were laughing, tossing coins at him like he was an arcade game. Something inside her snapped. She stormed over, stood between the man and the boys, and with fire in her eyes, shouted, "He's a person. Just like you." The boys froze, shocked, and slowly, they backed off and walked away, muttering. The man looked up, surprised, eyes wide with disbelief. "You didn't have to do that," he said. Ava smiled. "Yes, I did." What she didn't know was that someone across the street had recorded the whole thing. It went viral again. But this time, something even bigger happened. That homeless man. His name was Elijah. He was once a literature professor who had lost his job, his home, and his family after a tragic accident and untreated depression. The video prompted former students to recognize him. A university stepped in. And within a month, Elijah had been offered counseling, shelter, and a part-time teaching opportunity again. Ava had done it again. Another life changed. Another ripple sent out into the world. Back home, Clara watched it all with quiet pride and tears in her eyes. She had never felt more grateful, not just for the support they'd received, but for the reminder that she had raised a daughter who looked at the world with empathy first. And Marcus, now working full-time as a counselor and writing a book called The Cookie That Saved Me, found his purpose again. His sessions with troubled youth often started with, "Let me tell you about a girl who gave me her last cookie." His story gave them hope. Ava's courage gave them belief. And slowly, lives started to change. One day, the president's office reached out. Ava and Marcus were invited to attend a national awards ceremony for acts of extraordinary civilian courage and compassion. The ceremony was held in a grand hall, with marble pillars and flags hanging from the ceiling. Ava wore a simple blue dress, her hair tied with a white ribbon. She wasn't dazzled by the attention. She just wanted to share more kindness. On stage, as she accepted her award, she said, "Kindness isn't something we do once. It's something we can choose every day. It can be a cookie, a smile, a moment, and you never know, maybe that moment will save someone's life." The crowd gave her a standing ovation. But Ava didn't do it for the applause. As always, she did it because she knew how it felt to be overlooked, to go without, and to still choose to care. As the years passed, Ava's influence continued to grow. She started a nonprofit called the Cookie Project, which provided meals and emotional support for homeless individuals, especially those battling grief or mental illness. Marcus served on the board. Clara worked as its community coordinator. Volunteers came from all over the world. And every package they handed out, every sandwich, every pair of socks, every bottle of water, included one cookie. And one note: "You are not alone today." One simple act, one small cookie, one little girl. It began as a gesture and became a revolution of compassion. So now, it's your turn. You've heard the story. You've felt the emotion. You've seen how one moment can echo across lives, across cities, across nations. The question is, what will you do? Will you walk past the crying man? Will you ignore the girl with holes in her shoes? Or will you stop? Will you share your cookie, whatever form it takes, time, attention, kindness? Because maybe the person you help today will go on to help the world tomorrow. And if you believe in stories like this, stories that show us who we can be, then do something right now. Like this video, leave a comment about someone who showed you kindness, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful, emotional stories that remind us what it means to be human. Together, we can build a world where no one is forgotten, where no one cries alone on the sidewalk, and where even a single cookie can change a life forever.